Hi everyone, it's John Mitchell, and in this video we're going to look at optimizing operations. It's actually going to be a series of 4 videos because there's 4 key areas that an operations manager can use to help them improve or enhance or optimize their operations. And the 4 key areas are facilities design and layout, which this video will be on, and then we'll do more videos on materials management, the management of quality, and then implementing technology into the operations system. And they're the 4 main areas that an operations manager can use to help them improve productivity and find ways, use different strategies to help them optimize their operations. So facilities design and layout is looking at, all right, how is a facility actually laid out, and so that it should help work flow efficiently through the operations facility. So that it's the physical layout of a facility, and it can have a really significant impact on how efficient the operations are. If a product has to go from one side of the plant all the way over to the other, rather than just moving from workstation to workstation, that could slow down the operations system. So when we're deciding on the actual location and the design of a facility, these are some important factors that need to be considered. Firstly, the type of product being created. Is it a good or is it a service? And also, how large is it? In what kind of volume do we have to create? Do we have to produce it in? The space required and the space available in a facility. Proximity to suppliers. So when you're deciding on location, preferably you'd want to be located fairly close to suppliers. Otherwise, there could be problems where a truck breaks down or a ship breaks down and your supplies don't come in on time. So actually having suppliers close by and also labour close by is an important factor. Or like if you think about mining organisations where they don't have a lot of labour close by because they're in remote areas, sometimes they have to fly their employees in and out, and that can have a major impact on how efficient the operations are. Also access to services, and infrastructure, and then deciding, when you're looking at design, the type of layout that is best suited to the type of product that you are producing. There's some real common factors that need to be considered when deciding on both the location and the design of a facility. So the main part of this video is looking at the different layouts, and the layout of a plant and the equipment. It needs to allow work to flow efficiently. So as I said before, if a product is being, let's say you're making t-shirts and it's the cutting room is on one side of the plant and then the stitching room is all the way on the other side of the plant, rather than them being close by, then that's going to really restrict the workflow, and then that will impact on the efficiency of the operations. So if the wrong layout is chosen, and we'll get into the layouts in a second, or the processes aren't linked, it can cause loss of productivity, which then increases production costs and can harm your competitiveness because your products might be more expensive, or you're not saving as much money that can then be put back into the operations system to improve quality and speed of delivery and those type of things. So the 3 main layouts that we're going to look at are the product layout, the process layout, and the fixed position layout. The product layout is where goods are moved from workstation to workstation in sequential order along assembly line. So, your car manufacturing, those type of products where, a part, something is added at a different workstation, and it's really good for mass volume type products, but also where there's minimal variation required. So we can look at, when deciding on the type of layout, it's often good to look at, all right, what kind of volume do we need to produce in, and what kind of variety is involved in the different products. And a product layout allows for mass volume and a small amount of variety. So if you are looking at your car manufacturer, obviously they're producing in mass volumes, but there's minimal variation often at a manufacturing plant, such as Ford, Chrysler, whatever it is. They may only make 2, 3, 4 different types of cars within that actual manufacturing plant. Much of the process is highly automated, through robotics and those type of things, off conveyor belts, and staff perform specialised tasks repeatedly. So again, if you look at an assembly line for a car manufacturer, if you're working at one station on a particular day, you'll be performing the same task over and over and over. So you become really specialised in that particular task. And there is a perfect example of a product layout where you have got an assembly line and you've got cars on the line and different parts being added, and lots of machinery, lots of automated welds being done there on that assembly line. The advantages of a product layout are increased productivity. It helps achieve economies of scale because you're producing in large volumes. High speed of production, which enables the organisation to compete on speed of delivery, and reduce prices for consumers. If you think back to when cars were made before Henry Ford created the assembly line, then they were made from the ground up, and really there were hardly any cars made per day compared to what manufacturing plants can produce these days. Disadvantages: high setup costs because of all the machinery and all the equipment required. Low level of variety or customisation. It's a real challenge for a lot of organisations where because you're producing in large volumes, actually trying to customise or produce a large amount of variety, if you're going to do that, that's going to slow your production down. So really that's one of the disadvantages, is the lack of variety or customisation allowed in a particular product when using this layout. Employees can become bored performing the same task. As we said before, they perform a specialised task repeatedly, and so they can become bored with that, and then you've got all your workplace issues there with low morale and those type of things. And then problems can cause production to stop. So if there's a problem on one part of the line, sometimes if it can't perform that task, then production may have to stop until that area has been fixed. The next layout is a process layout. That's where equipment and work centres are arranged into similarity of function. So it's used for products that require a large degree of variety. So when we looked at the product layout, there was low variety. This is for large amount of variety, but only produces small volumes of that particular variety, all right, of that particular product. So often associated with what we call batch production is where limited numbers of identical products are produced. Each item is then completed before moving on to the next stage of production, and then they can create another product or another version of that product. Hospitals and banks will often use this layout. So if you think of a hospital, you've got your operating rooms in the one area, you've got your reception in one area, you've got your x-ray rooms in one area, you've got your maternity ward in another area. So it's done by similarity of function. And there's an example of a hospital there. So you can see there you've got the emergency section in one area, and then that links closely with radiography, or radiology I should say, and then the cafeteria, MRIs, the lab, etc., and it goes on. So all done by similarity of. The advantages of a process layout is there's greater flexibility to really create a variety or customisation of different products, and so as a result there's greater amount of variety and customisation. Less stoppages compared to the product layout. So if something breaks down, it doesn't mean that the rest of the production can't continue. And disadvantages: work again can be monotonous for staff if they are involved in the one area, and as a result of the higher variety, there's longer production time. So when you're creating mass amount of variety, different types of products or different types of services, then that will normally actually increase your production time, which hurts your productivity. And the last layout is the fixed position layout. It's where the product remains stationary while materials and labour are taken to the product. So if you think about that, the product is remaining in the one place, and then the people and all the machinery and equipment then move to the product. And that normally happens because the product is too large to move. So if you're at a construction site and you're building a house or a high-rise building or something like that, then or a ship or a plane, then often a fixed position layout will be the most appropriate because it's not practical to move the product around because of its size. It allows for high variety. So if you think about a building, you're building one at a time, and there can be large amounts of variety along with that, but low volume, all right, reasonably low volume with this type of layout, generally due to the size of the product and the time it takes to create it. And there's an example of a rocket spaceship being built. Because of its size, all the equipment moves to it when it's being assembled. So the advantages is it allows for high variety and customisation of the product, and allows for high quality finishing, so there's time being spent on the high quality finishes. And disadvantages: large investment required. Large initial investment required is probably better to put down there, and it's not suitable for smaller products. Look, you can use a fixed position layout for a small product if you want this extreme quality, but just you're producing in small volume, so you've got to be really look at an organisation there and say, well, you know, that will obviously increase the price of that particular product. So smaller, you know, reasonably priced products, it's not the most appropriate layout for that type of product. And often space restrictions for storage. So because of the size, you know, then actually finding room for storage can be a real difficulty with those type of layouts. So just to recap, layout design helps determine efficiency. We had a product layout where the product moves in sequential order from workstation to workstation. The process layout where activities are grouped into similarity of function. We had our hospitals and banks and those type of organisations there. And then a fixed position layout where materials and workers move to the actual product. And when you're deciding on which product to use, which layout to use, always be thinking about the type of volume and the type, you know, what variety is actually required when making that particular product, and then that will help you be able to decide and justify on the most appropriate layout. So for questions, activities and more, then come on over to teachingbubble.com.